Today, we will be talking about the challenges with inclusion of women with disabilities in programs. What challenges do girls and women with disabilities face when accessing GBV services? Hello, please tell us your name. My name is Emma Katema and I am from Mutare. I have some questions for you. What are some of the challenges when trying to include women and girls with disabilities in programs? The challenge we face in Mutare is that some of the deaf have never been to school. Again, most of them have no access to vital information to ensure they are included. We have cases where the police call us at Nzeve to help, but it can be hard because they have never been to school. The police want us to get true information and we do not want to lie to them. We refer such cases to others within the organization to assist so that we get to the bottom of the issue. Communication is difficult because they use crude home signs. Many times, two people will accompany them to court. The parents usually can't sign either. Communication is hard. We need to reach out to more, but funding is a challenge. If we have organizations that want to work with such cases, how can they be inclusive? The biggest challenge is funding. If funding is available, I could personally travel and help with such cases. Some of such funding for workshops on SRHR may be diverted. Many do not know about SRHR, such that we have a disabled couple with 8 children. It is difficult to support such a big family. What it means is that if we give them transport money to come to workshops, they divert it to family upkeep. There is lots of suffering there. Again, from rural areas like Nyanga, there is no money for transport. Communication with the family is quite a challenge as well. The police do not know how to communicate in sign language. As an organization, Nzeve does a lot of outreaches, but the organizations may not be receptive. In areas like Chipinge, there is no awareness. I was surprised that there are children who start school at 12 years of age. There are so many in such situations. Communication is very poor even at the hospitals. One hospital has an interpreter, but the interpreter is not that experienced. How are challenges experienced by disabled women linked to their gender and disability? How does the intersection of disability and gender affect violence experienced by disabled women and girls? Abuse of women with disabilities also takes the form of scalding with hot water. The husband may also not bring any money home, maybe because the money is not enough. When they try to seek help at the hospital, the nurses are not usually helpful and show a bad attitude. They sometimes call me for help through the Amplify Change project. They need interpreters. But it needs funds for transport, for example. One cannot meet such costs from one's pockets. What challenges do women and girls with disabilities face in accessing SRHR services? Many girls have no understanding of bodily changes as they grow up. They need to be taught with the use of visual aids for them to understand. We have many deaf helping under the Amplify Change SRHR project. Retake. We actually do school visits. We also teach about self-care, my body, and they get to understand. Many children with disabilities may have various sicknesses but do not know how to report. When they go to the hospital, they give wrong information which could lead to misdiagnosis. When they go back home, there is no solution and they end up approaching Nzeve for help. We then provide an interpreter to accompany them to the hospital. Afterwards, they are able to get the correct medication for their ailment. What challenges do women and girls who are raped face when they access the courts? The problems are big. Sometimes, the courts think that we are being dishonest and add to statements made by survivors. What we do is that we have a conference including the police, us, interpreter, and the survivor. Usually, the rape survivors has never been to school, so communication is a challenge. We do not speak for the survivor, but we want them to tell their own stories. We ask them to demonstrate what happened, for example, using dolls and other aids. The police are then able to get the whole story and build a case. We can do this well before court appearances. Unfortunately, sometimes the court cases are postponed before finalization. The courts may think that there is dishonesty on how we present evidence. The police have no problem in believing the interpreters, but the challenge is in court. We need court officials to come to workshops so that they understand about sign language. If they can be able to understand sign language, then the evidence can be presented direct from the survivors. How can we solve these challenges? Let the court officials and interpreters come to workshops so they can understand sign language. There won't be any need for many relay interpreters in such situations. The courts may think that there is dishonesty on how we present evidence. How can we help other organizations that want to be disability inclusive? How can we help deaf children in rural areas who do not go to school and without money? Once deaf children have been identified, we do follow-up home visits. Sometimes we teach them using visual aids and they can understand. It would be ideal if they are able to learn early. We usually urge the parents to try some income-generating activities so they afford transport money. It is a challenge for the parents to afford money for upkeep. What challenges still remain when we teach women with disabilities about violence? Usually, our workshops on topics like family planning and GBV target only women. When they get back to tell their spouses that they learned about being independent and need capital. Their husbands will tell them off and start talking about the lobola they paid, etc. You tell them that you want to be able to raise money for household needs. they end up being beaten. The men do not understand because they are not included in the workshops. For contraception, men will force their women to have sex even when they are not well. The men justify their demands for sex because they paid lobola. They are threatened with dire consequences if they should ever think of reporting. Sometimes they are kept locked indoors if they threaten to report such abuses. Money is also a big issue. A man may get some money but never supports his family. If the wife thinks of engaging in some vending, the man will again forcibly take away the money. Some will just keep quiet of such abuse because they do not have adequate information. Some approach organizations like Nzeve to help, but when we suggest the police, they become afraid. Why are we now witnessing a surge in broken marriages among the deaf? It's because some are spreading lies about one of the spouses, resulting in fights. They spread false reports that they have seen one of the spouses having a good time and being unfaithful. So the other ends up believing gossip without verifying anything. The two in the marriage ought to focus on one another and communicate clearly. It is important to sit down with your partner and discuss such issues. To solve this, you need to bring the two together and hear both sides of the story. The two should then come up with a way forward themselves. If they cannot come up with a solution, then such cases can be referred for expert help. are one-stop centers accessible to deaf couples. We have some of their members recently come to learn sign language. First, they approached us wanting to know the challenges that deaf women and girls face. We explained that they face a lot of violence, but they can't get the required services. We told them information is not easily accessible because of lack of interpreters. So they asked for us to come and teach them sign language. Unfortunately, we only did this once because of funding challenges. We have seen that they are very keen to learn sign language. Even the police and prison services are very keen to learn sign language. Police and prison services are there. Do you think other community organizations should also learn? They need to learn as well. It's like a deaf girl goes to the clinic. There is risk or wrong diagnosis because of poor communication. We can use interpreters, but we also have a challenge because of need of privacy. You need correct information in order to get good service. Thank you. We have enjoyed learning from you. You are welcome. We have learnt from Emma. We hope to build inclusive services and communities.
Run.